All right, buckle up for this deep dive because we're diving into a story that's pretty wild, frankly. We're talking about the U.S. Army's boat fleet.
The Army has boats.
Yeah, right. You'd think we'd be talking Navy here, but turns out the Army's got its own fleet of watercraft. They use them for all sorts of stuff, especially moving troops and equipment around. And, well, it seems like they've been having a bit of trouble on the water lately.
Yeah, a new report from the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, really showed just how bad things are. And we're not talking about just a few leaks here and there. It's impacting their ability to, well, do their job, basically. And this is especially true in the Indo-Pacific, which, as we know, is a pretty important place strategically these days.
We've got a CNN article and that GAO report you mentioned right here. And let me tell you, it's not pretty reading. The headline pretty much sums it up. They're facing wide-ranging issues with these boats. And this isn't just theoretical either. Like, the report specifically talks about how these boat problems caused real issues, like when the Army was trying to help with that temporary PURE mission in Gaza a little while back. Remember that?
Oh, absolutely. That mission really showed how important it is for these vessels to be ready to go, like at a moment's notice. These are complicated situations, often in difficult environments, and any kind of breakdown can have, well, major consequences.
And it looks like those breakdowns are happening more than they should. One thing that really jumped out from the report was how the Army's own rules say these boats need to be mission capable, ready to go 90% of the time. And the reality is, well,
The reality is nowhere near that. They found the fleet shrunk by almost half since 2018, from 134 vessels down to just 70. And get this, of those remaining boats, less than half are actually ready to go at any given time.
wow, that's a problem. No wonder they're struggling to do what they need to do. The CNN article I mentioned actually quotes a retired warrant officer who used to work on these boats, and he did not hold back. He said the Army's boats have not been ready, capable, or in a mindset they'll have to do something dangerous or in the real world for decades now.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough statement.
Hmm.
It suggests that this isn't a new problem. This has been
Yeah.
going on for a while. But the GAO did try to figure out why this is happening, why the lack of readiness, and it seems like a lot of it comes down to what they call significant maintenance challenges.
So more than just a few rusty screws then.
Oh, way more. Think aging vessels, not enough parts, the whole 9 yards. They even gave this crazy example, right? There's this landing craft utility vessel that's one of those workhorse boats the Army uses to get troops and equipment ashore. And this thing has been under maintenance since 2018.
Hold on, 2018. How can a boat be stuck in repair for that long?
It was supposed to be back in action by January 2021, but they just had delay after delay after delay, and then a bunch more unplanned repairs kept popping up.
6 years in the shipyard for one boat. That's got to be costing a fortune.
Oh, you know it. We're talking an extra $1.2 million on top of what they already budgeted.
Hmm.
And that's just one example. Multiply that by however many boats are out there.
Okay, so yeah, that's a financial mess for sure. But it seems like all this waiting around for repairs isn't just inefficient, it's got to be creating safety problems too, right? I mean, for the soldiers who have to rely on these boats.
Absolutely. And the GAO report agrees with that. They specifically called out safety concerns with a ramp that's used for loading and unloading on one type of vessel. And get this, in 2022, one of these ramps just fell off a boat.
Wait, seriously, like it just fell off. That's terrifying. Someone could have been seriously hurt.
It's a huge risk. And it just highlights how these little technical issues, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can lead to catastrophic failures. This isn't just about delays in budgets. It's about people's lives being put on the line.
That's scary stuff. Loading and unloading, that's like basic stuff you need to be able to rely on.
It really shows how these technical problems, they have really real consequences. And with everything going on in the Indo-Pacific these days, making sure the Army can quickly get troops and equipment where they need to go by sea, it's more important than ever.
Totally. Okay, so big problems, but what's the Army doing about it? The CNN article mentioned they're actively working on it, but is that just, the usual talk?
Well, they say they're doing two main things. One, they're trying to fix the current situation, so tackling that huge maintenance backlog, sorting out their supply chain, stuff like that.
Okay, so get those boats back in shape. Makes sense. But then what? I mean, how do you even begin to fix a problem this big?
It's a huge job, and it's made even harder because they're also trying to modernize the fleet at the same time. They've got some pretty interesting ideas about that, actually.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What kind of ideas? Are we talking futuristic speedboats, stealth boats? Tell me more.
Well, for the short term, get this. They're thinking about leasing civilian boats,
Yes.
like borrowing them while they sort their own stuff out.
Leasing. That's interesting. I guess it makes sense for now, but is that really a long-term solution?
It shows how urgent things are, but yeah, not ideal in the long run. For the long term, they're looking at something way more radical, autonomous vessels.
Wait, hold on. Autonomous? Are we talking self-driving boats for the Army now?
Yep, that's the idea. They're saying this technology could completely change how they operate, make things more efficient, maybe even safer.
I can see that. No crews to worry about, being able to operate in dangerous places. But are they ready for that kind of technology? I mean, they can't even keep their current boats afloat. And now we're talking computers steering the ship.
Yeah, it's a good point. And there are other hurdles too. Like, remember how the Army created that governing board earlier this year? It was supposed to oversee this whole watercraft program and get a handle on the problems.
Right, some much needed oversight, right.
Well, the GAO report found that as of May this year, this board hadn't even figured out its own basic operating procedures yet, let alone tackling the huge systemic problems with the Army's boats.
So they created a board to fix the problems, but the board hasn't even met to discuss the problems. That's not a great sign.
It makes you wonder how serious they really are about this, right? And it makes you wonder, can they handle a massive modernization project like this while also trying to fix all the problems their current fleet already has?
So we've got a real problem on our hands here. The Army needs these boats, but the fleet is shrinking, getting old, and they can't even keep up with repairs. And the solutions, well, they're either just temporary fixes or a huge gamble on some very new technology. Where does that leave us?
That's the question, isn't it? The Army knows about these problems. That GAO report makes that crystal clear. But are they doing enough to actually fix them? And are they doing it fast enough? This isn't just going to go away. The Indo-Pacific is only becoming more important.
Right, this isn't just about logistics. This is about making sure the Army can actually get troops and equipment where they need to be. And in that part of the world, well, things could change very quickly.
Exactly. So are these solutions, fixing what they've got, trying out these autonomous boats, is it going to be enough? Or are we about to be in even deeper water, so to speak?
Deeper waters indeed. This whole thing has really got me thinking, you just don't think about the Army needing boats, let alone all the work that goes into keeping them running.
Right. It's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think Army, but it's a vital part of what they do. And it just shows you, even the most powerful military in the world, they still have to deal with these basic problems keeping their stuff working.
It's a good reminder. Behind all the headlines and the politics, there are these real concrete problems, real costs, real risks. And it's about making sure our forces are actually ready for anything. What would you say is the most important takeaway from all of this?
I think it's how everything's connected. We're talking about maintenance backlogs, and then it's safety problems, and the Army can't do its missions. And all this is happening while things are getting more tense globally. It's a huge web.
Yeah.
And it shows how important it is to think ahead, invest consistently, and yeah, maybe even take some risks on new ideas to make sure we're ready for what's next.
Well said. Definitely given me a lot to think about. It really makes you wonder, what about all the other stuff, right? The equipment we don't hear about. If the Army's having this much trouble with boats, what else is out there? Something to think about for sure.
No doubt.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into this surprisingly complicated situation with the Army's boats. Thanks for joining us on this one, folks. And until next time, keep asking those tough questions. We'll see you on our next deep dive.